Let me now pivot to a deeper topic I want to address in a little more depth: social justice. What is the social justice argument all about? As I understand it, the social justice argument is quite new. In the 20th century, the century when I was in college, the debate was between capitalism and socialism, and that debate was really about which system was more efficient in creating wealth. And that argument was actually settled. One system won, capitalism won, and many people thought, that's it, socialism is done. Socialism will go away. Why? Because for Marx, as for Adam Smith, the issue of creating abundance was decisive. And capitalism seemed to have won on that critical score. But although capitalism won the economic debate, it never won the moral debate. And the moral debate is not about which system creates wealth. The moral debate is over how that wealth is distributed. What is a just allocation of that wealth? And interestingly, even if you go right back to Adam Smith, you don't find the moral defense of capitalism. Actually, Adam Smith's defense of capitalism is sort of indirect. In other words, the entrepreneur, by pursuing his or her selfish interests through the invisible hand of competition, nevertheless advances the material welfare of society. It's a very half-hearted defense. And so I want to take the bull by the horns and ask, on what basis can we decide that the allocations of capitalism are just? Let's take an actual example of what I mean. Here in Palo Alto, there's a Ritz-Carlton, there's a Westin. Now imagine a guy who is a valet parking cars at the Ritz-Carlton here in Palo Alto. And this guy is paid, let's say, $15 an hour. And let's say that he works 10 hours a day, so he makes 150 bucks. And this guy is now thinking to myself, in those 10 hours, how many cars did I park? Well, I parked, let's say, 100 cars. And how much does the Ritz-Carlton charge for someone to park their car? $30. So how much should the Ritz-Carlton make as a result of me parking those 100 cars? $3,000. And how much was I paid out of that $3,000? $150. 3,000 minus 150 gives $2,850. Who gets that? So from the valet's point of view, this is a very unjust system because I'm doing the work and some other guy is taking the cash. And this argument about the injustice of capitalism is actually anchored in, I think, a rather interesting argument that was made by Marx himself. Marx basically said that when you have a business, an enterprise, there are two groups of people that are involved in making this enterprise go. There's capital, the capitalist, and there's labor. So the capitalist provides what? Capital. And capital, Marx says, has a cost, and that's called interest. So part of the cost of the business is to pay interest on the capital. And then Marx says there are other costs. There's rent, there's equipment, there's machinery, there's this, there's insurance, there's this, there's that. Add up all the costs, including the cost of paying labor, and you get total cost. That's the total cost of running a business. And Marx says, now you might expect that the product would be sold for that. But in fact, the capitalist will sell the product for the highest that the market will bear, as much as he can sell it for. And so there's a big difference between the revenue generated by the sales and the cost. And that difference Marx calls surplus value. We call it profit. And Marx's question, quite a profound question, who gets that? Now Marx's assumption is that that belongs 100% to labor. Why? Because labor made the goods. The capitalist supplied nothing more than the money, which has already been recompensed through interest. My view is that this description, convincing as it is on first glance, is a completely false representation of how businesses actually run. Consider for a moment the capitalist. In America today, the vast majority of capitalists supply a lot of things, but the one thing they do not supply is capital. Did Steve Jobs actually put up all the capital for Apple? No, he went to a bank. The bank supplied the capital. And this is true of Gates and everyone down the list. The bottom line of it, the capitalist supplies three things that Marx completely ignores, that are actually of far greater value than capital and actually entitle the capitalist to a share of the profit. But Marx, in a sense, submerges these three factors completely. First, the capitalist has the idea for the business. Without the idea, there's no business. Labor doesn't think of the idea, the capitalist does. It's his or her idea. They do it. Second, the capitalist organizes the business. Here you have this valet, he goes, I park the cars, I need all the money. The truth of it is, the reason you're getting $30 to park a car is you're at the Ritz-Carlton. Somebody built the Ritz-Carlton, somebody thought of it, somebody paid all the capital costs, somebody took out the insurance. You didn't think of that. If you come to my house and want to park my car, I'll pay you 50 cents. So the reason that you're getting $30 is not because of you. It's not your labor that's worth $30. It's the resort that's worth $30. And you didn't create that. So the capitalist has the idea for it, he organizes it, and third, he takes all the risk. Very important factor. The capitalist gets paid at the end. If the business has a bad quarter, Steve Jobs can't go, or the current Tim Cook can't go to Apple and say, sorry guys, I'm not going to pay you for 6 months. It's looking bad for us this half of the year. No, he has to pay them anyway. So labor is trading a fixed wage for security. But the entrepreneur is taking the risk that he might get nothing out of it, and he could even lose money. So the truth of the matter is that in fairly assessing the just rewards of capitalism, you have to match what the entrepreneur actually contributes. And to say it's just capital, it seems to me, is a gross misunderstanding how business is actually conducted in the United States and all around the world.